It's metal AF. It stands for action. I'm so metal. It's metal AF, guys. Check it out. It's metal because I'm metal. It's metal AF. It's metal AF. Check it out. So much for metal. It's because I'm metal. It's metal AF. So much metal. Kill me. Oh look, Necro's doing an indie game and it's not in early access for once, but it is yet another Souls-like, so we're going to have to go ahead and put that on the list of things I'm perpetually finding myself playing, just kind of because. And, as an aside out the gate, it's a Souls-like in the barest minimum concept. We've diluted what Souls-like actually means, so now that it really only describes how the world and progression are handled. Dig, if you will, a picture. Super Mario World. You have to go to World 8 to get to Bowser's Castle, completing levels along the way. Now imagine that after completing World 8, instead of going on to Bowser's Castle, his castle pops up way back at World 1 and you have to go through every level backwards in order to get there. Now, levels you completed since the last time you died stay just as populated by enemies as when you finished them. Killed all of them? Cool beans. Now as you go backwards, your reward is an unhindered progress until you die or reset by resting out of mushroom. That's what Souls-like refers to now. A game where levels are a little more arbitrary and the only tangible consequences of them remain only as long as you don't die, rest, or warp. Your reward for good play is being able to traverse and run in circles like a chicken with your head cut off, unhindered by the monsters that did so in the first place. Oh, also it's an ARPG, but that's really light on the RP parts. That's what Souls-like means. It no longer even refers to difficulty. So when people tell you that Elderborne is a Souls-like, know that the qualification it meets is that it's moderately difficult when compared to Skyrim, and it has a grand total of 3 stats to level, and the level design I've just mentioned exists. Unlike the last Souls wannabe I played, you can permanently lose a soul cache, so they have that at least running for them. We got that out of the way! Cool. You're probably internally screaming about how I spent all this time questioning what it means to be a Souls-like, rather than actually talking about the game. Well, it's kind of fucking important. It's advertised as a Soul-like, but that's really all it has in common with them. It's more like Dark Messiah. I'm told. I wouldn't know. I never actually fucking played it. It's also plastered on every fucking inch with advertisements labeling it Metal AF, with the AF standing for Action Fantasy, but the joke being that it really stands for as fuck, but with the super secret joke being that AF is just a fan project and there is no post-GT happening, and the Super Saiyan 5 will never be a real thing. I'm sorry, weebs. Having said all of that shit, we're going to have some Souls-like related problems in the future, so I don't know what the point of any of this was, and I will now talk about the actual game. And truth be told, yet again, I'm finding myself struggling to write about it. I wrote 3 goddamn scripts and each one was worse and longer than the last. More mindlessly jabbering with next to zero focus and going into far more description than was otherwise necessary. And I really don't want this to be a 20-minute video, especially for a game that's so direct and focused. So I'll ask you a question. Which would you rather have? A 13-hour meandering, directionless, and bloated title, or an 8-hour hyper-focused, knows exactly what it wants to do experience that has probably more than its fair share of issues? But what about option 3? What about a hyper-focused, knows exactly what it wants to be experienced that has probably more than its fair share of issues that I completed on hard in 3.5 hours and I'm pretty sure the last 45 minutes were nothing but a death montage due to the awful bloat? Yeah, with that being out front and center, you would think this is going to be some sort of scathing review, but first and foremost, the game is downright exemplary. You know the rally mechanic from Bloodborne? The one designed for you to go, oh shit, my health is low, but I've got gray health, which means if I go beast mode, I can gain that health back and maybe get the upper hand. That one? Yeah, they refined the ever-loving shit out of it, and it pushed the combat to a whole new level that, just like Metal Gear Rising, and just like Doom 2016, encourages the player to push past self-preservation and go all Ultra Instinct. Healing items are similar. You get 1. But you can fill up 2 more by murdering for long periods of time, feeding into an endless cycle of supercharged, hyper-powered violence. The smell of blood and sweat, a sign of the warrior, as the battlefield roars and noise crushes ears, as all hell breaks loose and death dominates! You are flying above. You are dancing in the heat. No gravity in the pit. It's baller! Combat is weighty and incredibly varied in ways that many games don't even think to try. Heavy weapons make you walk slow. Parry weapons make you move a lot faster. The parry animations and input buffers are entirely fucked in a way that I can't explain in less than 50,000 words, featuring citations and an annotated bibliography. In short, recovery too long. Can't get knocked out of it even though enemies can knock you out of heavy attacks. Input buffer that holds input unto infinity. Too many problems to count, and they're all mitigated by having a kick cancelled.
That's right, come one, come all. There's a dedicated shove your size 16 so far up their ass, you'll be walking on their teeth button.
And to make matters better, it cancels all your recovery animation woes, and also lets you kick motherfuckers off cliffs, and into spikes, and just kind of generally all around the goddamn place. Then there's the skills you can unlock through leveling up, but those are mostly useless. Like, the only good ones are parrying projectiles, sending them back, a dash added to your kick, and chilling for a few seconds begins to regenerate health, which you may or may not even bother with that last one. You get 3 attributes: strength, health, and speed. I don't think leveling speed serves any real function outside of letting you send back projectiles. Health is good and strength is your true blue DPS, so there's not a lot of variety there, and you won't even get half of the skills in a single playthrough. And to top that off, there's no New Game Plus. On top of all of that, most of the weapons you get a second version of that only really feature a slight minuscule difference that doesn't even replace the one you have on the weapon wheel. Bloat is kind of an issue with the game, especially on the back end of it. I wasn't kidding when I said it's about 3.5 hours long. My first playthrough, which started on the default Elderborne difficulty, was kinda too hard to go on at a first shot. So I lowered it to normal and completed the game in about 7.5 hours. I then played through on hard, and as stated, completed it in 3.5, and again, I'm pretty sure that last 45 minutes was mostly a death montage of the game's back-end bloat and shitty boss. You see, the game devs like throwing hordes at you. The bad part is the combat doesn't really fit with dealing with hordes, and you spend most of your time kiting. Yes, the rally system encourages you to get your ass in there, but really only if you have health you can recover by doling out the harshness. Otherwise, it's enemies teleporting behind you like there's nothing personnel, kid, and you constantly having to repossession to deal with enemies firing projectiles over geometry long after you've broken line of sight. To put it simply, on hard I made it through chapter 1 in about an hour. There are only 2 chapters and a pseudo-finale. So 3.5 hours. Do the math on the time you spend on each. Chapter 1 has you running through catacombs and ruins in a tight, linear fashion. 2 has you going through this ancient, rotting metal city less linearly, collecting a metric fuckload of keys, and kind of forging your way at the pace and in the places you decide. You have 3 towers to activate, scale, and then deal with a horde fight at the top of, and then you get your final boss, then you get 5 more big boy horde fights, then a goofy punctuating finale. The final boss is just Smo and Ornstein. No fucking seriously. Check this out. Just look. Big fat guy with a hammer lumbers around, does a short charge from time to time, accompanied by a small fast person who dashes around the map to maintain a harder pressure. Also, this time it teleports behind you just because Jesus fucking Christ kill me. Then you kill one, then the other powers up. It's literally just Smo and Ornstein. That's how much their brains got fucked on the whole Souls-like idea. So fucked that they're just ripping it off at this point. Oh look, they're so dedicated to the difficulty that they made it super difficult just to change your controls. Okay, funning aside, that last one was just a glitch. But my point still stands. A lot of the game is focused around tight movement and combat, and then you're just thrown into these masses, and all planning has to go out the window and gets replaced with kiting. The game really suffers at times, and it drags the second half out really bad, which then just drives home how short the game is. $15 for a tight and focused 7-hour experience with great replay value on the difficulty settings is phenomenal, but $15 for half of that playtime leaves a slightly sour taste in my mouth. And let's talk about craftsmanship outside of gameplay. The game is downright beautiful. Even in the catacombs, they're constantly changing up designs. Their use of color helping create a strong and familiar but heavily alien setting is fantastic. Brown dirt, strange glowing blues and oranges, the red blood smattering so much of what's ahead of you, obsidians and golds decorating the ruins, fantastical burning scorpions, glowing, billowing mummies, the strange glowing runes and purples feeling even more alien than before. Then you come out of the city of your mum, get it? your mom. I don't think that's intentional. And it's brass. It's diseased, decaying brass. The city is dead, and that's before you even get to the slums, which are so thick with muck you can almost smell them. The broken city guard in their thick, otherworldly, full-body metal armor, the poor and plagued wrapped up in their rags, the visibly modified and experimented on McCarthyist glowing blue berserkers swinging their better dead than red signs. It all just becomes more alien the further you go on, which makes sense as, you know, it turns out it was aliens. The art direction is phenomenal, and it's all accompanied and complemented wonderfully by an absolutely killer soundtrack. I don't like the Smoen Ornstein fight track, though. It rings a little too techno for me. So you get this very strong contrast. The game is a tight, focused experience, atmospheric crafting is top-notch, and as the hipsters would say, a stellar core gameplay loop. But then you get all the glitches and bugs thrown your way. The really bad recovery issues on parrying that if you don't get used to kick canceling sees you getting hit 3 times by the same enemy before you even get the chance to input another action. Really bad ass end blow and shitty horde battles that just drag the ending down. Not to mention the voice acting needed some more takes and sounds like the audio had to go through some very aggressive noise cancellation. You know what I'm talking about when it gets that weird tin can effect. It's an odd proposition. On the one hand, it's tight, focused, knows what it wants to be, and delivers it very well. On the other, there's bloat, issues with combat and parrying, and it's heinously short. All in all, I enjoyed my time with Elderborne. It's incredibly fun, it delivers on its promise of being metal as fuck, and it's a very unique experience. It just needed to be longer, and probably cooked a little longer as well. And maybe it really wouldn't help if it was $5 shorter at the base price. I'm the TheNecroswanson, and you can go fuck yourselves.
Bodies, bloody, and crashing around.